like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Greetings, dear viewer. Welcome to my twisted take on Dead Space 2. So naturally, the first thing I noticed when I started up Dead Space 2 is that Nicole is looking older than she was in the original. I also noticed that they cloned Isaac and got rid of the original because this one can talk. All jokes aside, I found out that Isaac had encouraged Nicole to stay aboard the Ishimura. Then I found out that Isaac is actually incarcerated and in a straitjacket, talking to who I think is, at first, a shrink. Together, we basically recount the events of the first game for anyone foolish enough to play Dead Space 2 without searching for and bothering to play the first one. It is very clear that Isaac is hallucinating. After he spazzes out and regains awareness, he meets a man named Franco who is attempting to bust him loose. He seems like a good guy, and I look forward to escaping with, oops. Well, bye Franco. Then I hear the voice of a woman telling me to run, as if I need any incentive to get the hell out of Dodge. This game definitely decided to up the stakes and added a lot more necros to the opening chase. Early on, I hear the voice of one of the game's antagonists, Director Tideman, who is calling for all key subjects to be killed. Somehow I think I'm one of those subjects. Then I see a video of Nolan Strauss being interrogated. He is clearly unwell and unable to remember his wife. He has been exposed to the marker and his brain is scrambled. Then I run into a clearly deranged doctor who puts a knife to my throat and rambles. Just as it looks like I am about to take a blade to the belly, he cuts me free and tells me in one last moment of lucidity that my rig is red and I need health. As I grab the health and flashlight from the locker, I turn back to the doctor and he decides he needs some fresh air. The voice of the woman shows herself in a video and tells me that her name is Dana. Now, I played through this game a long time ago, but I don't remember anything about the story as I set out playing it. I have forgotten this game thoroughly, as too many other games have gotten my attention since I played it, and as back when I didn't play the games for the story so much as for the action, so I didn't follow along. Anyways, the second she came onto my screen and told me that her name was Dana, I instantly thought of Daniels and became immediately distrustful. She tells me that she's trying to rescue me and that the dementia that is causing me to have my visions and to break down on occasion is going to kill me. It sounds very reasonable. She says that she can treat me, but only if I follow her directions. What are my assurances? She's not the one shooting at me. Great. I get to the point where I'm just so lonely that I decide to live out my inner Spider-Man. Well, it turns out that Isaac is just a bit too fat, and I fall through the vent and into an area with a floating body. Et voila, I have telekinesis, and a strange amount of pointy things that used to serve as a bed. Dana chimes in to give me a vague reason as to why she's so intent on helping me. As I continue by finding my way to the surgery bay where a man is still tied down to a table, I see the laser and realize it can be used as a plasma cutter. As I begin to create the makeshift weapon, a necromorph comes into the bay and the man screams frantic for help as I try to quickly assemble the weapon. I get it done, but not in time to save the nameless patient who is torn to pieces. With the plasma cutter in hand, I am now armed and able to dispatch creatures. As I am working my way through the sprawl, I encounter Patient 5, also known as Nolan Strauss. I missed the chance to go the proper route that Dana is sending me because a security lockdown brings a gate down in place. In another game, I would have slid through in the last second, but in this case, I contact Dana, tell her that the route was no-go. She gets snippy with me, and I tell her that I don't need help. I'm a big boy, and I can go it alone. And then I fight a wave of baddies, before having to eat crow and admit that I might need a little bit of help. Dana tells me that we don't have to like each other, but Tideman is the real enemy. She then tells me that I'm on Titan Station, the moon orbiting Saturn. Tideman jams her signal before she can tell me how the outbreak happened. I hallucinate some more and get the stasis ability, though not in that order. Once I get out of the hospital, I contact Dana and demand more answers. Turns out it has been 3 years since the events of the first Dead Space game. As I head to the tram station, I get contacted by Nolan Strauss. Apparently, Isaac wasn't paying as much attention as I was in the video earlier because he doesn't know who Strauss is. The man is clearly rambling and insane, but he tells me that they use drugs to make them forget, and then tells me to watch out as the necromorph climbs up onto the rails. Once I get to the tram, I have to fight my way to the front and the tram gets derailed and leaves me hanging as a wave of necromorphs slowly rush me. Once free of the straps, I have to outrun the tram as it tries to crush me. When I get back in touch with Dana, she tells me that Nolan Strauss is crazy, which of course he is. Isaac said that when he was asking about him. She then reveals that he killed his own wife and child, and tells me to stay clear of him. As I go through the sprawl, Dinah leads me to the Church of Unitology as Tideman has a gunship and starts blasting at me. At this point, I started to get a bad feeling that Dana knows where to send me and knows this way through the church. I begin to suspect that she may very well be a false ally I suspected since the beginning. In order to get through the church, I commit enough vandalism that the automated computer system becomes almost blandly irate at the fact that I won't stop and heed her orders. I begin to think that while Tideman and the Earth government want me dead, she might be a unitologist who wants me for something else. But that would mean that Franco was a filthy unitologist, and I refuse to believe that about my man Franco. Nicole shows up to taunt me. It quickly becomes clear that the crux of the story is the guilt that Isaac carries over the death of Nicole. He encouraged her to take the assignment on the Ishimura, and because of that, feels that she died because of him. The guilt is carried through the entire game, and almost every time Nicole shows up, it is to poke him about his guilt, or tell him to make us whole. Then, something large breaks the door that I'm supposed to go through. The game introduces a new enemy. These stalkers are highly intelligent and will hide and stalk, waiting for an opportunity to strike. These are very much like raptors, and I could tell by the achievement given that the developers were thinking along the same lines. I found that unless I use stasis on them during their charge, they will most likely get to me and knock me down. At least that was my experience. I suck at games, though. I get on an elevator and head below the church into a very creepy area where my illness kicks in. This actually left me jarred for a moment. I try to contact Dana, but Tideman's jammer keeps me from communicating. She manages to slip through a message and tells me that I need to go up, so I have to disrupt the gravity so I can use my boosters to get to the exit. Once I reach the top of the church, suddenly comes the heel turn that I expected all along. As I come face to face with Dana, I am grabbed by a few of her goons. I am not shocked by this twist in the slightest. As I have just finished playing the first game, I am fresh off of the betrayal of Daniels, so Dana wasn't a shock as she lays out why everyone either wants Isaac dead or as a prisoner to help create even more markers.
Why can't everyone just leave me alone, huh?
You're a dangerous secret, Isaac. EarthGov won't leave you alone because they're afraid you'll destroy their marker. After all, you did build it.
What are you talking about?
Well, that's why we brought you here. To build markers for us. To spread glorious convergence to the entire galaxy.
You people are unbelievable! Just give me the fucking cure and let me go.
Oh, we don't want to cure you, Isaac. We need that precious little head of yours just the way it is. Now would you escort Isaac to the shuttle and put him in stasis? The last thing we want is for him to die.
And just like that, my only hope for a cure that may have not existed in the first place is gone, and I have no one telling me where I'm supposed to go. I manage to escape this gunship barely as a giant creature decides that he wants to play. Unfortunately, he plays a bit too rough, so I decide that I need to find another playground to play in. Not happy with the fact that his new toy mate is running away, it decides to give chase. At this point, I start to notice a sad trend away from horror into something more bombastic and action-heavy. This is Dead Space if Michael Bay helped direct some of the action scenes. Once I escape the beast, I crash down and am contacted by the only person that isn't currently after me, Nolan Strauss. He tells me what I need to do. What both of us need to do is to destroy the marker, and that it is located in the government sector. Following the path set leads me into several situations, including one where I have to turn off all the oxygen in the area to kill a fire that is burning where I need to go. Talking to Strauss, it quickly becomes clear that he's off his rocker. He's hallucinating his son, is afraid of some man who will appear, and is afraid of her. I think this is his wife that he's afraid of confronting given how he killed her. I try to calm him down by talking very softly, but he's too far gone. As I get to a place that looks like it was once a shopping center, I encounter a woman who has decided to make her last stand. She shoots any necro that comes near her, and as I get close enough, a shot wings past my head. She is clearly on guard and doesn't trust anyone. I instantly like and trust her, because she doesn't want me around. She doesn't want to help me, and she doesn't want help from me. Instantly I know she is not looking to stab me in the back, only to protect herself. For now, I don't know what happened to her, but I feel like something bad happened. As she was standing there facing them down, she was clearly ready to die in that moment. To get to that point, she has to have lost everything. She tells me not to follow. So for now, we are not enemies, but she doesn't consider me to be an ally. As I continue, I encounter a very, very disturbing scene that also serves a warning about a new type of enemy. These babies, the babies that were on the sprawl, have mutated into little crawling gas bags that go poof. So once I go into the daycare/school, I hope that my twins can forgive me as I slaughtered the babies, and they slaughtered me. Nicole pays me a visit, and I let her know that she's not real.
Still in denial? Afraid you're gonna cut your wrists if you listen to me?
I'm not listening to this. You may fool Strauss, but I know you're not real.
Oh, you claim I'm not real, and yet here I am?
You're just a hallucination. Strauss knows how to destroy you. He knows how to destroy the marker. We will destroy you.
How convenient. Destroy the marker and all the hurt and pain go away. Imagine that, Isaac. You'll never have to listen to your heart.
Not long after that, I get a call from Ellie.
It's Ellie. I found someone. Another survivor. He says he knows you.
Isaac.
I said, stand still.
Ellie, take it easy. His name is Strauss. I know him.
He looks twitchy. I don't trust him. Don't move.
Ellie, I need him to be not dead. I need him.
Shit. Okay, Isaac. I'll march him to the hub, but if he does anything stupid, anything, I will shoot him.
How I wish that were true. As I reach the transit hub, Tywin pops into foil.
Our two remaining runners, Clark and Strauss. I knew it was only a matter of time before you reached the transit hub. You will find the train inoperable.
Are you insane? You cut off power to life support. There may be other survivors over here.
Public sector is already beyond acceptable recovery conditions. I can't allow you to escape. Goodbye, Clark.
And a large beast breaks in to ruin my day. Once it is dealt with, Ellie agrees to help me for a bit, and Isaac comes clean as to why Tywin had such a hate boner for him.
Isaac, are you alright? I think that's all of them now.
Why did Tiedemann turn off the power? What did you do to piss him off so much?
Ellie, you know what a marker is?
Yeah. The unitologist on my crew wouldn't shut up about it. Why? Is it real?
Yeah, it's real. Tiedemann made one using codes, patterns stored in our heads, mine and Strauss. Everything that's happening on this station is happening because of that marker. I have to get to it and destroy it, and I need Strauss to tell me how.
You're a strange man, Isaac.
Will you help me?
We're about to suffocate, so I think I'm better.
Then they decide that they are going to need to restore the power to life support and the train. As I get on a lift, I found a brief moment where I was going a bit too fast for the game and it needed a moment to buffer. I thought this was strange, and it never happened again in the rest of my playthrough. As I get to the docking port that leads to the solar array, I have to fix it by going outside, and then aboard a lift. As I continue to get higher and higher, I am bombarded by creatures. I found myself backing up to a window to get away from one enemy, only to be smacked by an enemy that had climbed up to the window I'd put my back to. They introduce an interesting mechanic where, instead of having to find a key card, I have to use a body with a rig that has authorization to pass by. I like this mechanic, though I feel I dropped the body a bit too soon, so I had to go back and get it. Then poor Howard Phillips gets the brunt of damage as I use him to get past the defenses. I head toward the main frame so that Tideman can no longer use the computer systems nicknamed Auntie to cause interference. When I get to the main frame, I gain access and have to reroute several fuses, and this has Auntie chiding me in its bland voice for my actions and telling me that the security has not been notified. Somehow, I think they have bigger issues. I destroy the mainframe and Auntie goes offline. As I get to the solar array, I find that I'll have to go out into space to realign the arrays. When I get in touch with Ellie to ask how things are doing, it is very clear that Strauss's condition is deteriorating rapidly.
Strauss, what's wrong? Ellie!
As I get into the solar array, my psyche comes back into play in the form of Nicole, who taunts me about my guilt.
How do you hold it all inside? Your face never betraying your pain. No one would ever know the guilt you feel. Never know the dark thoughts you keep.
I go outside and find that 2 of the mirrors are not aligned. I ask for another update on Strauss and Ellie tells me that he's calmed down, but she hates the fact that he's slowing her down. I assure Ellie that he's necessary, but for some reason I think he actually might know how to destroy the marker. I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, it's not my fault, it's Isaac's fault, but I digress. It turns out that once I get the solar array back online, a horde of necromorphs starts flooding in and Ellie and Strauss have to run for their lives. Ellie tells me that I'll never make it to the hub in time, but I am Isaac Clarke. And if you are halfway capable, i.e. not me, you'll make it there in one piece. I make it to the CEC base and Ellie starts to have a bit of a breakdown. She starts to tell me what happened to her.
Ellie, are you guys there? Did you make it?
Shit, Isaac. Just... shit.
Hey, take it easy. It's okay.
No, it's not. I was right here this morning with a crew of 30 people. But we were overrun. And before I knew it, they transformed. I had to cut the arms and legs off my friends just to escape. I'm sure there's pieces of them still lying around here somewhere.
Ellie, I know. I'm sorry.
And here I am again. I've just walked one big fucking circle today.
We'll get through this. Let's figure out how to meet up.
Not long after this, I find an audio log, and I can start to hear what happened to Ellie and her crew. Bit by bit, I start to piece together how they lost people until it was just her and Caleb, and he held off the necromorphs, leading to Ellie's survival. Not long after, I had found her in the last stand moment where she had lost all of them and thinks it's her end. I meet up with Ellie, but the door is jammed. In order to get around it, I have to go through a processing plant. Strauss is barely holding it together. I love this little touch that Ellie gives. To some, it might seem as if she's comforting him, but to me, it almost looks like she is very gently pushing him away because he's too close. As I get to the plant, I go through what looks like a meat grinder. Tideman steps in to turn the power back on, because we wouldn't want things to be too easy. With a little bit of stasis, though, I'm able to fly past even as Tideman talks smugly as if he has one up my ass and I'm sure to die. He seems to forget that stasis is a thing in this universe. As I get through the meat grinder, a conversation with Ellie shows that Strauss's mental condition is continuing to decline and that they are attacked, leading to the call cutting out. Not long after I get to them, for a moment I thought Ellie was either going to shoot me or hug me. Not too hard to figure out which one I would choose. They decide that the best way to get to the government sector is to use the industrial transport, but naturally it has to be deployed first. While in the first game it seems like I was doing everything just because, in this one I understand why I have to go. Ellie is much more capable of handling Strauss. Her brain isn't scrambled like Isaac's. The last thing that needs to happen is for both patients to get hit with an episode as necromorphs surround them. Then they would be truly screwed. Then, Nicole finally reveals that apparently Isaac just couldn't watch the end of the video.
And when you received my final transmission, you couldn't bear to watch the end, could you? You knew what had happened. You've been looking for me anyway. Deep down, it's fine. What's that?
I still don't like this as an answer, but I guess it puts to rest the question as to why he didn't know at the end. She continues to torment even on the transit, while I try to maintain that that isn't Nicole.
Why'd you come looking for me if you knew I was dead, Isaac? Did you think I would forgive you?
Get out of my head. You're not Nicole!
Once Ellie and Strauss are aboard the transit, I get underway and a huge reveal is dropped on me as I see the USG Ishimura docked in the sprawl. Ellie acknowledges that it is indeed the ship, and that the official story was that what happened aboard the Ishimura was labeled as a terrorist attack. Isaac informs her that this official story is bogus. I thought it was a nice nod to the first game. How little I knew. As the transit comes to a stop, I hear the final audio log of Caleb as he gives his life to save Ellie, and faces his death bravely. He signs out, Turns out that the thing blocking the transport door is a giant tentacle. Naturally, I have to make the tube it's holding go boom. Once I ignite the last one, I get back to the transit and outrun the explosion. Only just. Tybin chimes in to tell me that in another circumstance he might admire my persistence, because just like Dinah being a Daniels-like traitor, Mercer had admitted that he admired Isaac's persistence while telling me that I don't see the big picture. So, just like the Ishimura, we're trotting out all the best hits from the original. Tybin uses solar array to cut the line to the transit. Then I come up with the brilliant idea to use the gravity tethers aboard the Ishimura. So, not only did they show me the original ship, how could they resist taking me back onto it? I was over the moon when I realized that. After only a week or so since I beat the first game, I get to go back onto the ship that started it all. It has me rethinking my idea about reviewing Dead Space 3 one day. Though I'll consider that later. Chapter 10 becomes my favorite chapter simply because I get to re-explore the Ishimura and see different places that I recognize. I remember going, that's where I found Jacob Temple's first transmission. That's where Hammond personally tried to assure me what was going on in the captain's nest. The first place I see when entering the Ishimura is the diagnostic area, where I run, once again, a diagnostic. Though this time, instead of the tram being out, it turns out that the gravity centrifuge needs to be repaired. On my way to do that, Nicole whispers in my ear, telling me that she knows that I'm bothered by being aboard the Ishimura. And with her talking in my ear, yeah, I was definitely rattled. Going through the Ishimura definitely feels like a brief tour of the greatest hits of the first game. I find out through an audio log that after the Aegis 7 marker was destroyed, all the crew members deteriorated into a goopy sludge. It wasn't until they were reunited with bits of the marker that they began to reanimate. As I go to the decontamination chamber, I fully expected to be ambushed, but they played it smart and decided not to do it the first time. I get to the centrifuge and have to fix it before bringing it back online. The second time through the decontamination chamber, I do get the ambush. And it actually caught me a bit off guard. At first I thought they were going to wait until it was done to charge in, as I saw them at the windows. When they smashed through, I prepared myself for a fight. After it's over, I get in touch with Ellie, and Strauss is finally stepping off the deep end. The transmission ends with Ellie telling him to drop the screwdriver. Then she gets back in touch with me and says,
Oh, Isaac. Damn it, that hurts. The bastard bit me.
What? Ah, shit. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. But he stopped talking. He won't look at me. How's it going at your end? And please tell me this plan is going to work.
I'm almost there. I'm headed to the bridge now to activate the gravity tethers.
Well, good. They're swarming in through a hole in the medical deck. At least you won't have to go through there.
Unexpected obstruction ahead. Shutting down. Welcome to the medical deck.
Crap.
I'm not going to lie, the first time that I heard this, I laughed out loud. I know that it was meant to be funny, but it caught me off guard as this game hasn't been much for laughs. It's been all serious gloom, doom, depression, guilt, so this moment of levity shocked a laugh from me. As I go through the medical deck, my guilt eats at me as the last video of Nicole, right before her death, plays. She taunts me that this is where she died, on the medical deck. These were where she spent her last moments. She says,
You never found my body. Never said goodbye. I just stuck in the morgue with the others. Another random casualty. Or did they turn me into one of them? Wearing my bloody face, stalking the halls, looking for more victims.
I felt they missed a huge opportunity to add something along the lines of, or was I one of those creatures you slaughtered in your desperate search to find me, all the while knowing I was dead? Perhaps that is just the morbid curiosity and creative bastard coming out in me. As I engage the gravity tethers, I tell Ellie to go, that I'll catch up in the escape pod. Tybin screams at me before I cut him off, and as I go to get to the pod, Nicole asks what she is. Who she is, if not my guilt and my conscience eating at me, tearing at me. Once I get to the escape pod, I contact Ellie, but Strauss has finally snapped and attacks her. As if this isn't enough of a problem, my pod hits something and knocks my guidance systems offline, leaving me to piloting a dead pod. I get knocked cold and Nicole invades my mind.
Isaac, are you there? You're right, Isaac. The Ishtar is a great ship. I am so lucky to be serving aboard her. You made me stick with it. You made me stick with it. You made me stick with it.
You made me die!
Then Strauss's voice taunts me. As you get to Strauss, he is holding a screwdriver with an eyeball stuck in the middle of it. It turns out that in order for Ellie to see, he needed to take her eye. Doesn't make much sense to me, but I guess that's why I'm not crazy. As he monologues, you get a half-blinded Ellie coming up behind him. I admire her restraint in not beating him to a bloody pulp. I'm also shocked to see that she is so well composed for someone who just lost an eye. She truly is a badass woman. Something grabs me and hurls me out into space, and I have to figure out how to get back in. Lasers block my way, so I have to figure out how to get them out of my way before getting back into an oxygenated environment. When I get back inside, I contact Ellie. She's safe for now, though Strauss has gone off the deep end and is more than likely hunting for me. I tell her that I'm coming to her and to be safe. On my way, I'm ambushed by Strauss. Now, for some reason, after the first strike with the screwdriver glances off my helmet, it retracts. This is a bad idea, but for some reason, there's not a safety mechanism to stop a helmet from going away when someone's trying to stab me in the face. After this, I decide to express my displeasure with the fact that the entire plan has relied on Strauss holding it together long enough to get to the marker and destroy it. But since I was forced to kill him, now I'm lost and don't know what to do. With this, Nicole comes to ask me one final time. I decide to tell Ellie that I avenged her eyeball, neglecting to mention that I shoved the eyeball into Strauss's brain. Naturally, she's broken up about his death. I finally admit that I know what I have to do, that I'm not running from my guilt anymore, and that I'll help her by getting the drill running. Once I've kept good to that, she pilots the drill and I keep the necromorphs at bay. The deeper in, the more of the alien material we encounter. I would love to see a remake where this scene plays out as buckets of blood splatter me soaking my outfit. It would be glorious, but it's probably never going to happen. Once I reach the foundation pylons of the government sector where the marker's stored, Ellie decides that the best way is to use the drill. While this is played for laughs, it is the one time I'm wondering why I didn't just get in the cab with her. So I go crashing through the wall and express how much that hurts. Ellie responds with,
Well, we can compare bruises later.
And I cannot argue. If I hadn't encouraged her to help me with Strauss, she'd still have her eye. I continue toward the marker, and Ellie tells me that she's found a docked gunship. She is suddenly filled with excitement. As I get to her, I make the choice to close the hatch and begin the procedure to send her away from the sprawl. She protests vehemently.
Oh. Hey, Isaac, what are you doing?
Gunship command over. Confirmed.
Isaac! What are you doing? Open the door right now!
Emergency launch cycle initiated.
No!
Airlock seat.
No! No! Don't you dare! Don't you dare launch the ship! Isaac!
It's your best chance, Ellie. You got life support, comms. Hey, you gotta be rescued.
You bastard.
I need you to be rescued. I couldn't save Nicole, but I can save you, Ellie. So, bye.
Are you ready to talk now?
Why? So I can let you go too? I can't do that, Nicole. I never wanted to let you go.
A lot happened that we never wanted. Isaac. Touch me.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Isaac, please. Make us whole.
I can't.
Tiedemann chimes in to let me know that I'll never get near the marker. He seems a bit unhinged as he brags about his security force.
Providence protects you, Clark, but it ends here. I have 200 armed security personnel. Every entrance is covered. Even if you do get in, you won't get far.
As I go along following pure instinct, I feel a sharp pain, and Nicole tells me that the marker knows where I am and knows of my mission. I take down Tiedemann's security by letting in a horde of necromorphs to take them out. Tiedemann tries to warn me about what happens if they reach the marker, but has to retreat before he is overrun.
You compromised the compound, you idiot! If any of them reach the marker, fall back! Fall back to the marker chamber! We have to seal it off!
As I get deeper in, I see the marker that they built using what was in my brain over the last 3 years. There are a multitude of bodies standing before it in rapturous delight. I ask what the hell is going on, and Nicole answers.
What? What are they doing?
They're all coming to the marker. Convergence is at hand.
I knew you were trouble from the start, but they told me you were necessary. That your mind was the purest. I spent years sifting through your demented brain. This is not the way it was supposed to happen.
Well, how was it supposed to happen,
We
Tiedemann?
had it under control. Clark, this is not our fault. We were so close to understanding it. It's all those bodies you let in here. It's triggering a convergence event. But we never expected this many bodies.
What the hell is it doing?
What it was made to do. Isaac, you have to make us whole.
At this point, I have given in to the effects of the marker, and I am letting this hallucination guide my actions. Suddenly, everything makes sense. As I crawl inside the claustrophobic tunnel and guide the needle down into my eye, I begin to wonder why, by the by, I have stabbed myself in the eye. As I ask Nicole what I'm supposed to do, she tells me to meet her at the marker. When I arrive at the marker, following the light, I am impaled by a spike in the shoulder as Tiedemann's voice rings out.
The research in that marker is worth every life we just lost! I won't let you throw all this away!
Thank you, Isaac. Now?
What?
Yours is the last body we need to be reborn. The Makers must be absorbed.
The Makers? You mean me? But Strauss said we could destroy the marker!
Not if we consume you first.
God damn it, I trusted you! Fuck you! And fuck the marker!
I am not as surprised by Nicole's betrayal as Isaac is. As I refuse to be absorbed into the marker and reject the marker, it destroys it, and I sit back letting myself rest, knowing that I've done it, and I can die knowing that Ellie is safe and the marker is destroyed along with anyone who knows that I'm capable of recreating it. I smile knowing my mission is complete. As the credits roll, the camera slowly starts to slide backwards, and that's the end of the game, right?
Bastard! Was this your great plan? Dump me off and die?
Full of bad ideas, remember?
Yeah, well, here's another one. I'm crashing through the roof to get you. Now move your ass.
Wait, no, Ellie, it's too late. Set clear of the station.
Yeah, well, you don't really have a say this time. Heads up.
And with that, I absolutely love Ellie. At the end of the journey, I watched the outro and I am instantly reminded of how the last game ended. I kept waiting for him to look to his right, and it takes a while before it does, and they end with a small bit of levity. Dead Space 2 doesn't live up to the horror of the original, and as I said before, the action is much more bombastic and explosive than the original game was. Granted, the marketing for the two games was much different. The first one leaned into the horror elements of the game. The second one was much more punk rock with its advertising, "Your mom's gonna hate this game, dude." It had that kind of vibe. Unfortunately, it does show some signs of what would eventually be the decline of the series with the third game's emphasis on action. Now that being said, I do understand the idea that it would be less scary to Isaac as a character the second and third time around as he has dealt with and killed hundreds of them, but I feel that it still could have tried to retain his horror. This game was definitely awesome. The lighting effects were leagues better than they were in the first game. There were times they seemed to be showing off. There were times when they seemed to be showing off. Like when there was an advertisement billboard that was showing different colors and it flashed on the ground and the wall. It was the coolest thing to experience. As someone who grew up playing games like Super Mario Bros. 3, I can appreciate how far we've come as an industry. Games have a way of telling stories that can affect us to the core, and I am a sucker for a good story and character arc. I have never been one to hate on games because the graphics aren't the best. I hate purists like that because those who don't know a thing about actual game development and how much effort it takes, it's easy to tear apart a game when you've never even cracked open rendering software. While this game's graphics definitely are dated by today's standard, I still appreciate what they were trying to do. This game was a blast to play from start to finish, though it rarely had me jumping from fear. Perhaps it was because I had played the first game, so the scares weren't nearly as effective for this one, or perhaps this game just wasn't meant to be as scary as the first. Some of the story beats were predictable. Perhaps if they made Dana, a black woman whose name was Natasha, I wouldn't have been so unwilling to trust her, and the twist might have surprised me. But instead, I was suspicious from the beginning, and unfortunately, I was right about it. Tideman as an antagonist is pretty forgettable. The performance was amazing, but his motivations were forgettable. And as a character, I only saw him one time in person, and that was right before I blew his head off. Nolan Strauss is a character that was interesting. I felt bad for him, though I don't know if he killed his wife and child before the marker or after being exposed. One makes me feel sorry for him. The other makes me hate him. Overall, his turn to insanity was clear to see coming, and Ellie loses an eye because I never have the opportunity to blow his head off. Isaac is much kinder and more patient than I would be with someone like that. I guess there's a reason I'm not a social worker. Ellie is hands down my favorite character in the game. Because she wants nothing to do with me, it tells me that I can trust her because she's the only one in the game who actually seems to care and have a heart. The performance by the actress was very well done, and I could feel her pain the entire time. I felt genuine relief when Isaac sent her away. I knew that at least one member of that ill-fated CEC crew was going to survive. Her showing up at the last second to save me made me fall in love with her. The fact that she scolded me for trying to play hero and be left behind to die, all of it was perfect to me. Chef's kiss. Overall, I found this to be an enjoyable experience and look forward to playing it again once the remake comes out. Since they now have Isaac as a voice protagonist in the remake, it will fit better into the continuity than the original Dead Space that had Isaac as a mute for the entire game. Having played both Dead Space 1 and 2 in the last month, I am almost tempted to play through the third and make a twisted take about it. I do hate leaving things undone. But we shall see if one day I play through the entire voiced Isaac saga. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Dead Space 2. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment and let me know. And if you'd be so kind, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time here in the Twisted Nightmare Studio.